What's going on, everyone? In this video, I want to go through contracts. All right. Contract is a very important part of this business. Without a contract, you don't have a deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and walk you through a little bit of the purchase and sale agreement as well as the assignment of contract agreement. And I'm actually going to put in the description. I'm actually going to put in the description a download, well, not a download link, but a link to this contract, and it'll take you over to my Google Drive, and you can just make a copy of it. I guess that's how that works. Anyway, let me share my screen and get to it. Um, Here we go. This is just a disclaimer at first, saying I'm giving you a copy of the agreement, but it's your responsibility to make sure that it does not violate any local or state laws. You should get this agreement reviewed by an attorney or title company in your local county to make sure that you're not going to get into any trouble. You should not have any issues, but I'm just covering myself here. So if you use this agreement, you do so at your own risk. And that's basically saying, just have whatever title company or closing attorney that you're using in that area look over the agreement and, give you the go ahead or give you the okay or make necessary changes to it. Agreement to purchase real estate. This agreement is between seller's name, and your company name. That's where you will put your name or your company name. The buyer and the seller, when mentioned together, may be referred to as the parties. Seller agrees to sell and buyer to sell to buyer the property, and then you put the property address. And it's pretty straightforward. So I'll skip through it. You get this parcel ID number from probably the assessor site of whatever county you're in. This is what I was talking about in one of my other videos, the $10 earnest money deposit. It can be $1, it can be $2, it can be $5, it can be $100, it can be $1,000,000. It's whatever you want to put forth, but you want to put forth an earnest money deposit. Don't give the seller this money. Don't ever do that. Don't give the seller this money because you can't prove you gave it to him. So, and if you're working in a market where you have yet to find a closing attorney, this is what this is. To be determined. Closing/escrow attorney. Earnest money deposit would be deposited within 2 business days to the closing attorney or escrow. Blah blah blah. If buyer fails to close, then earnest money deposit is forfeited to the seller, and that's why we want to go as low as possible. That way, if we can't find a cash buyer for the deal, then you're not losing anything but $10. That's that. Purchase price. This is what you and the seller agree upon. Property purchase as is, just giving them clarification that they don't need to do any repairs or anything like that. Buyers assigned. That's basically the cash buyer. And this agreement right here, I forget where I got it from, but this is the agreement I've been using since I got started with this, and it seems to work in whatever market that I've been in. So I think you'll be okay. But if you're watching this and you recognize this agreement as one of your own, then I probably downloaded it from your website or something like that back when I first got started. So don't be mad at me for using it or sharing it with anyone else, because I'm pretty sure I got it from you for free too. So. Property sold as is. Closing terms and conditions. Closing will be within 30 business days of both parties' execution of this agreement. Buyer will choose the closing agent, that's you, and you choose the closing attorney or the title company. And buyer will pay for all escrow and or closing company costs as well as recording fees and documentary taxes. Now, that's not you. That will be the cash buyer paying for that. All right, at closing. And if it doesn't go to closing, Nobody pays that. You only pay the closing attorney or the title company if it goes to closing. Seller will convey title via statutory warranty deed at closing. Seller agrees to provide marketable title free and clear of any lien or encumbrance. This just means that the seller will make sure that the property can actually be transferred. There are things, that's why you do a title search. That's why you open up escrow so the escrow company or the closing attorney can do a title search to make sure that the property can actually be sold, because sometimes there's things on the title that cloud it, like a contract that the seller had with someone else from a year ago that they recorded with the county, and it locked the property up. And so you would, in that situation, you would have to deal with the person who or the company who clouded the title, and more than likely they would probably want money to get out of the deal. So that's something for another time, though. If the buyer purchased if the property is leased at the time of closing, then rents will be prorated, and any tenant security deposits will be transferred to the buyer. Property taxes will be prorated of the closing date. Tax bill is not current. The prior year's tax bill will be used as an estimate of the current year's taxes with no discounts given for early payment. Proration shall be considered to be final at closing, and no re-proration will be required once the actual tax bill is produced. Any delinquent or currently due taxes will be paid by seller at or before closing. That's just making sure that they got everything locked up and ready to go, so there's not any extra costs on the cash buyer. Access to the property. This is important because you want to make sure that you have access to the property to take the cash buyer over there. Well, sometimes cash buyers buy sight unseen, but that's rare. People want to look at shit like you wouldn't test drive a car before you bought it, right? You wouldn't look over a car and test. You would not look over a car or test drive the car before you bought it. It's the same. So sellers shall make the property reasonably accessible to the buyers partners, agents, assigns, potential and actual contractors, surveyors, lenders, and appraisers prior to closing. Buyer may market this contract to purchase the property prior to the close of escrow. That is saying that you have complete access to the property. If it's vacant or if it's a tenant in there, you will make arrangements to take someone over there to see it, and you don't tell the sellers that it's a cash buyer. In some situations, I've closed a lot of deals where I've actually told the seller what I was doing. A lot of gurus and stuff, they teach to say that you're the buyer and all of that type of stuff, but I find that honesty is most of the time the best policy. But if you're dealing with someone that's been screwed by a wholesaler before, I wouldn't disclose their information because they're going to be reluctant to deal with you because they've already been screwed. You get what I'm saying? And so this gives you the right to market the contract subject to the satisfactory inspection of the buyer 15 days after the date this contract is fully executed and received by buyer. Buyer disclosure. Buyers, employees, or agents may hold a real estate salesperson or broker's license in the state of Florida. This is one that I made for Florida, so I'll just change this right now. There you go. Buyer and those employees are not represented by any party, and buyer um, and seller agree that each is acting in their own best interest. Damage to the property. Seller shall maintain property in its current condition and keep insured against all loss until closing. In the event of destruction of significant damage of the property, buyer may elect to close and collect the insurance proceeds. That means that once this contract is signed, if anything happens to the property and there's insurance that's coming through, the seller has to give you that money. All right, seller acknowledgement. Seller hereby acknowledges that all negotiations and deadlines with buyer have been and are at arm's length and that no duress or undue influence has been exerted by the buyer over the seller or the seller's family in connection with this agreement. Seller is aware that the buyer is purchasing the property for a prompt and or concurrent sale and significant profit. The seller's acknowledgments executed by seller together with this agreement is incorporated here by reference. That's saying that upon the seller signing this agreement, that they know and are fully aware that you plan to make a profit, which actually helps your assignment fee if they were to get wind that you're assigning the contract to someone else. Like, well, you signed it and you agreed that I'm making a profit off of this agreement. So, attorney fees. If legal action is needed to enforce any part of this agreement, the prevailing party is entitled to reasonable attorney fee and costs, including any incurred on appeals or in the negotiation or alternative dispute resolution of the dispute. This is the entire agreement. This agreement is the entire agreement between both parties. No representations have been made or relied on in making of this agreement in any part or provision, and this agreement is held to be invalid or unenforceable. The remaining valid provisions shall remain in force and in effect. This is intended to be a legally binding document. If you do not understand the legal effect of any part of this contract, seek legal advice. You might want to throw in there somewhere that I might do it before I upload this, but you might want to put in there somewhere that that this purchase price up here can be renegotiated after an actual physical inspection is done, because not all the time will people be honest with you with all of the repairs and shit that are needed over the phone. So if you make an agreement based upon you thinking that it needs $20,000 in repairs, and then when your cash buyer goes over there, they see that it needs $50,000 in repairs, naturally this agreed upon price that you have with the seller isn't going to work out because there's more repairs. So I'm going to fit it in here somewhere. So, all right, and this is plain and simple, straightforward. Your name, company, today's date, the seller's name, please print. And now down here to the assignment of contract. For value received, you, as assignor, hereby transfer and assign to your cash buyer as assignees their heirs all rights and interests in that contract between the property owner up top and you, as of purchase contract dated the date of blank blank 20 whatever for of the premises known as, that's the property address, more accurately described in said contract, subject to covenants, conditions, and payments contained in said contract, are authorized and empower assignee on their performance of all of the above mentioned covenants, conditions, and payments to demand and receive of seller the deed covenanted to be given in the contract hereby assigned in the same manner and with the same effect as I could have done had the assignment not be made. For assignment fee payable as cashier's check or wire transfer, of which the non-refundable deposit in the amount of whatever you agree upon as non-refundable deposit. Now, see, when you sign this contract with the cash buyer, just like the contract that you have with the seller, it locks up the property. This actually locks up the property as well. So what you want to do is you want to get a reasonable earnest money deposit that also goes into escrow. Okay. So that way, if the cash buyer decides he wants to back out of the deal, your time isn't 100% wasted because you get that earnest money deposit. You know what I'm saying? So I would do something like 25% of your I would do something like 25% of your assignment fee. All right. So if your assignment fee is $10,000, they put up $2,500 as non-refundable deposit. And no cash buyer is gonna argue with this if they're actually planning on following through. But if they're sketchy and they not really planning on following through or anything like that, they might have some bullshit to say. But you don't want to deal with them anyway, right? Unless they're serious. Here we go. Purchase price, assignment fee. Oops. Purchase price, assignment fee, non-refundable deposit. Earnest money deposit. Oops. All right. Acceptance by assignee. We, cash buyer's name, accept the above assignment of the contract made the whatever day of 2021. I agree to perform all obligations to the performer signor under the contract and to indemnify a signor against any liability arising in the performance or non-performance of such obligations. Now, anything in this contract, any words you don't understand, Google it and figure it out, because don't just use this as any tool that you use, and you have to know how to use it and you have to know how it works, right? So don't just get this and then, just start filling in the blanks. Actually read over this, Google what you don't understand. If you have an attorney, have them explain things to you, because you don't just want to be, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to be blind. You actually want to know what's going on, especially if you're planning on building a business out of this shit. You actually want to know what's going on, right? So, there you go. I'm going to put the link to these contracts in the description. You don't have to pay for them. Like I said, they're going to be free. Just make a copy of them from Google Docs or whatever. And yeah, uh, like, subscribe, and share this with anyone who you think may find some value in it. And hopefully you found value in it. And I'll see you in the next video.